Greetings, everybody. This is the one true divine feminine and psychic investigations tarot. Welcome here. Appreciate you joining my site. I don't even know if I've enabled the ability to do a thumbs up or subscribe yet, but if you can, do so. If not, I'm just calling this energy out to all democracy lovers in the world. Okay. I feel like I have some pretty important messages. I'm going to start with some cards, and then I'm going to do the beginning of another eclipse series. Why? Because these eclipses are so potent and powerful, and they have so very much to do with our country. And in fact, I'm doing the astrology reports from our nation's chart. So certainly they will impact us as individuals too, but they're truly meant for our nation. And because there's so much energy in these charts, and we know we're in a tumultuous time, knowing things ahead can help us to prepare, think wisely, choose our higher selves, and again, come up with a plan that works for everybody, right? That's my ultimate goal. And I also want to say I'm beaming love out to my nation. I'm beaming gratitude out to my country. I'm beaming just heartfelt space and love for everyone, right? And I've had to work on some parts of this because of certain things, and I'm going to get into that later, but I'm going to continue to work on that every single day, right? Because I was a victim in this, right? My thing was I bought software off the internet, right? So I had nothing else to do with any of it, and yet here I am. So my path is entwined with my country's path, and our charts are very similar. So again, what my country went through, I went through. So these eclipses are huge, right? But I'm going to get to that, and bear with me when I do, because I'm probably just going to have to kind of read it, and I put it in smaller print than I usually do. So if I struggle, forgive me. But there's such important messages within this for us to contemplate. And I mean that absolutely from the bottom of my heart. And just know that every day I work at loving my country anew, despite our difficulties, loving the help I've gotten, feeling blessed in every possible way. And I hope that we can come together, all sides, all differences, everything, so that we can resolve where we are. That's my most intense, heartfelt message. Okay. And yet we have difficult path ahead. And, sometimes that's how it is, right? So I'm just going to start off with some cards. Now, I've been putting the pieces of my own story together. And I may not have all of it right, so you need to understand that. I've more than once picked up on some messages that weren't correct on YouTube. But I'm getting the overall gist of things, right? And some of it's fairly startling, and I've already been through quite a bit of turmoil, right? But this, I think, began with a very official person in a living room. And I get the sense that person had a lot of very corrupt energy in them. And of course, we don't know which living room, right? You need to put these pieces together for yourselves, right? But I'm putting together that there was a lot of Uranian energy. This is maverick energy. Think outside of the box. A lot of God complex here. Like, I'm God, I'm the ruler, I shoot from the hip, I decide, right? I'm the electrical storm in the universe, right? And I also sense with, and maybe not even just one person in the living room, but multitudes of people in the living room, that there was also a great deal of devil energy. Now, the devil has to do with the things that bind our souls, whether it's greed, extreme lust for money, a desire to be all powerful, to be looked up at, to have the ultimate control, just whatever that is. For some, it's, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever addictions, right? Whatever addictions. But I get the sense that there was a very wild and erratic energy, Uranian, very Uranian, God complexy, and a lot of addictions, not just with one person in the living room, but with several, like power at any cost kind of energy. Now, some of that energy in the room could have had Gemini in it. Now, there have been I've heard multiple people with Gemini in this case, right? So let's talk about high vibe Gemini. I have a girlfriend who's Gemini, chit chatty, likes to talk on the surface of things. Some people are really good with technology, like Facebook and Twitter and all that sort of thing. Instagram. When it comes to information, it's like a box of chocolates. They want to take a little tiny bit of every one, and they don't want to delve too deep, right? Now that's on the kind of high vibe end. On the low vibe end, you can get people who almost have split personalities. And I have actually seen that with a woman I once knew. She had Pluto square her Gemini sun, and she had a very fractured mind. Not that that always occurs, but it can occur. But certainly there's a sense of a duality of the light and the dark, of looking at things one way or the other, or maybe not even being able to decide, bouncing back and forth, back and forth. I feel this way, no, I feel that way, having a hard time coming up with stuff like that. This energy can also come down to playing both sides of a situation, right? So, for example, am I for Russia or am I for America, or Russia or America? Or, if there were a two-party thing, which side am I playing on, right? So people that have difficult placements with Gemini planets can play both sides, right? So there's this duality energy. Now and again, it all depends on how the person elects to enact that. So here we have, the potential for playing both sides of a situation. Okay. So we have that, dual nature. And again, how that pans out just depends on the will of the people who are inside of the living room. But I want you to think very hard about that. Now, also, when other people's planets land in your chart, it tells you how they're going to impact you. Now, for me, any Gemini energy automatically ends into my 7th house. And a lot of people jump right away and they say, well, that's the marriage house. Well, it can be that, or long-term partnerships or business partnerships, but it is also called the house of open enemies. Now, as it turns out, I think people in the room had planets that jumped into my 7th house. And oddly, with one of the people, I think, who was in the room, my son falls into their 7th house. So we're basically, at this point, we know we're, on opposite sides of the fence. But what that tells me is that some of the people in the room were very much not my friends. They were, in fact, extreme enemies, some of whom could be playing both sides. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. And again, there's been several Geminis involved in this. So it's hard to put all the pieces together. But I think there's a lot of very intuitive people out there who are going to begin to see what's going on. Now, we know that we're going through a Pluto return in our country. And that Pluto return means that we are basically rebirthing some of the things that happened when our country was formed on July 4th, 1776. That's when our nation's astrological chart and our inception began. And so we are seeing things just like we saw in the revolution. We're seeing the humiliation of people. We're seeing the scapegoating. We're seeing the rioting, the mob violence, all of that. Now, I spent time in Boston this last summer and I learned a great deal about the revolution. Not enough, but enough to really spark my imagination. Now, one of the characters that I found very interesting in all of that was Dr. Benjamin Church. Okay, now Dr. Benjamin Church, he turned out to be, again, a dangerous creature, right? One, because he was very much in alignment with the Patriots. He was one of their most trusted people. And this very trusted person was in on all of the secret meetings about what was going on with the Tories. So he was in on the know of everything, right? Now, what became deadly was that this person was, as it turns out, a turncoat. He was taking everything he learned from the Patriots and he was running it over and telling the Tories, right? And this, of course, it took a long time for people to figure out, and eventually it did come to light. And he was basically run out of the country on a railroad, right? And in fact, he was headed to the West Indies and his ship disappeared. So I don't know, it's just there's that energy right there for people to consider just because we're going through the Pluto return. And I think all things need to be considered at this point because our nation is very much in a huge flux point, right? So, okay. So, I'm not having any twin flame journey with anybody except for my husband, right? No twin flame journey. So if you're seeing things like my picture on people's stuff and there's this together thing, there is no together thing. There's no together thing. I'm in a 35-year monogamous marriage. There's no together thing. However, there was a lot of mirror magic that happened because what happened was a lot of witches came into my house as part of what occurred to me. And the mirror magic is I'm going to replace you. What I am, you become. What you are, we become. We're going to do a destiny swap with you. I am you, you are me. So there were so many things that were said, like, oh, I'm a prostitute, right? And they created a sex video. Only it's not true. I'm an extremely modest woman, 35 years in a monogamous marriage, never had a one-night stand, would never even consider it. So, so many things that were said were completely backwards, and they filed fake prostitution charges on me, fake drug charges, nasty pictures. Everything that was said and or done was done because people were trying to destiny swap with me, while a vast fortune was stolen. Right. And so, in order to hang on to that, you had to vilify the person that you were stealing from and get everybody to slander and hate that person and turn against them because that was necessary for the destiny swap. Right. Now, I've worked for the federal government for 35 years on none of the things that were said, right? None at all. Again, I've supported Warnock. I've given to NAACP. I tried to get Oprah into office. I loved Stacey Abrams. My best friend in astrology was a Black gal that I went and met at a conference in New Orleans. Why? Because there were so many people at that conference, but very few people of color. And I thought, hey, she probably feels lonely. So I went up, had a conversation with her. It turns out that we were very simpatico. We went out, watched jazz that evening, formed a friendship that lasted for years. We did astrology every week together. We went to conferences together thereafter, roomed together, palled around, right? So there were a lot of things that were said I'm realizing that were not true. So I'm straightening the record for myself. Okay, we'll probably get back into that in a little bit. Also, I think, and this is again more than one energy. So don't, you come to your own conclusions. But we certainly have people in our country right now that are willing to do absolutely anything for money, anything. right? This is why it's so dangerous to have, like nuclear secrets hidden in a basement, for example, because, when you do anything for money, anything is possible. Now, and I don't have proof of this, but I'm getting this inkling, okay? This intuition. Somehow I get a sense that some large sums of money changed hands, um, possibly with the people in the room, okay? So some money was changing hands, and the mission was to completely take me out, right? However that went down. That was the goal, was to, here's the money. I want you to destroy this woman. Now, again, did I have anything to do with the whole Russia thing? No, I owned a computer. That was it. I signed for the Mueller probe 3 times. Why? Because I don't think a hostile foreign power should have anything to do with our country. I also signed to have certain people removed from office, excuse me, and a million other petitions, etc., etc., etc. So I was the unfortunate victim, and software was involved. This was such a long-term plan, though, folks. You really have to figure out if somebody paid to have the software put on the internet. And I say that because when I've looked back in history, I've noted that they aligned people on the Ukraine desk many years in advance of this coming up. So who's to say that software wasn't purposefully created, placed on the internet for an unsuspecting person to stumble on? And I don't know that occurred, but I am concerned, right? You need to find out, detectives, if um, someone was paid to create the software. And I've provided Homeland Security with that information. Okay. Now, again, I pick up intuitive hits. Some are correct, some are not. I'm not psychic, right? I only occasionally get hits that I know, okay, this is important. And I have used those hits to help solve what's going on, that in astrology. And I definitely have hit it, I'm sure, on the head with some of it. So now, I want you all to go and watch on YouTube Tarot Mystic Tori. And it's a very urgent message. Someone who betrayed you is facing Fed time. I would like for you to watch that energy. Okay. Now, there have been many people who've betrayed me, right? A whole group of people, but just watch that. And I certainly sense a lot of devil energy involved with this. So, with the witches, the mental manipulation, the identity theft, the this, the that, we're going to change destinies with you. We're going to create a whirlwind storm and try to bury me. That was the goal, right? Just bury me. Now, one of the things that really concerned me with Mystic Tori's reading was the fact that there was information in there about cryptocurrency. And again, I know nothing about cryptocurrency other than criminals use it to do nasty shit. Okay, that's my full extent of my knowledge, full extent. However, she said that, there's some stuff going on with cryptocurrency. Now, that really bothers me, and it should bother you too. Why? Because we know in 2016, cryptocurrency was used to buy and do all kinds of really horrible things to our election system, to throw things in a particular direction, correct? So the fact that we're talking cryptocurrency and the things that I've seen astrologically, and the FBI knows this, have concerned me about what's going on with this illegal form of money that criminals tend to latch onto, most especially people that will do anything for money and power and control. You should be very concerned about this. Watch the video. Now, again, so much, I think, of what's happened to me happened because people wanted to swap destinies with me. So there was someone, again, in particular, kind of an upside down dark princess who wanted to be me and vice versa. And so the lies and the slander and all this and that ensued. So many things were said that were just completely not true, right? Not at all. So there's, some jealousy and envy and possessiveness going on. And of course, all the money that I won in the court cases because, I had nothing to do with it. All that money got stolen, right? Now, there's some of it that is slowly coming back. Some of it has ended up in weird places, like I think a lot of strange money laundering going on. That's still part of the coup energy that we have happening in our country. But I'm very much a democracy gal. I'm all for democracy. And I do love my country despite the things that have happened to me. I love it and believe in it. And I'm as concerned as I could be with where we are, as I'm sure many of you are too. So anyhow, the gifts disappeared, but it really wasn't going to change my life that much anyhow. Why? Because, I do need to make up for some lost time, but really it was about alchemy. For me, it was about taking the gifts and turning it into something good. And again, that's also why I'm continually working on the things that happened to me so that I can heal how I feel about my country, because I've always loved my country, right? So, but anyhow, the gift is the help that I've received from the FBI. The gift is many things. I've received many blessings already, right? Including enormous soul growth for overcoming a horrible tragedy. And I have more yet to learn, but I am going to absolutely focus continually to continue to heal myself. But yes, I have set some wheels in motion. We'll talk about that later. So, there was a lot of slander. One of the slanderous things that I believe was told was that I was a witch. I most definitely am not a witch. I don't know anything about witchcraft whatsoever. I grew up in a very conservative Mennonite church when I was a kid and a Catholic prior to that. And I was a Sunday school teacher for a while. I still hold all of those Christian beliefs. I also read a lot about Buddhists and Hindus, and I'm a very much a new age girl. So yes, I do like astrology. I like yoga. I'll take wisdom anywhere I can find it. But the core, same principles that most of you have, I grew up with and still hold on to, right? So I'm not a witch, don't know a darn thing about it, would never practice it. I don't like the evil intention I see behind all of it. And having had several packs of witches in my house as a part of this whole take me down process, I can tell you it's scary beyond belief. Right? So I'm not a fan of witches. Now, if they're good witches, how to make people's lives better and, how to do good things in the world, well, I would certainly change my vision, right? Now, the other thing that's certainly involved in all of this are secret societies, very much so, including, I believe, the people in the room. So there are people in the room. And again, you can see the secretive nature of this. And a lot of this is going to come out, I believe, in the lunar eclipse around May 5th of 2023. And as people get close to going to jail for some of what they've done to me, I think a lot of people are going to begin to throw other secret society members under the bus, which means that more and more information will come out about what happened. Okay. So I am, just trying to give you a little pre-warning of what's going on and why we need to be so very careful and why you need to investigate fully and try to figure out who was in the room. You need to figure out who was in the room. It's critical for you to figure this out, right? Because, that Gemini nature, okay? That two-sided or working both sides or, back and forth or whatever it is. You need to figure out that energy. Now, I wrote a book about my experience, which was very radical and painful, but it helped me to catalog what was going on as this was occurring to me. The FBI does have a copy of this book. One copy went to AOC, who was sharing it with Merrick Garland. I really suggest that you read this particular book. Now, this book was very revelatory, which is why I've had a lot of assassins on my ass, because I had nothing to do with what happened, but I outlined step for step for step for step who was involved in the election coup of 2016 in great detail, and also great detail of what happened to me along the way. Now, somebody copyrighted my book just as I was finishing it and getting ready to try to go publish so that we could keep trouble at bay in our country, right? And by the way, I did use astrology to get rid of the problem. So I helped to oust the problem with Republican friends who swung vote. Um, I helped to end the coup. And then I wrote a book that described who was involved in the coup. That has, of course, put a price on my head because I outlined step for step. Now, the problem is the book hasn't come out. Why? Because somebody copyrighted my book just as I was getting ready to publish. And it got copyrighted because it exposed what actually happened. Now, there are a few people who know exactly what went down, and I think AOC and Merrick Garland are two of them, but the rest of you need to get your hands on the book and you need to read it, because I have begun to get very concerned. And again, I don't know all of the pieces, nor am I saying I do. I really don't. But I have to question, did my book get trapped inside of the room? Did it? You need to try to find out who was in the room, who copyrighted my book, and why would people in that room trap my book. Okay, you also need to find out if money got passed from one person in the room to other people in the room with the goal to specifically bury me. And trust me, they've tried to do that a multitude of ways. To bury me alive, to I'm on my third assassin. They poisoned my husband, etc., etc., etc. You need to find out that money changed hands in the room, and did my book get trapped in the room? You've got to know. Why? Because everything is at risk. I'm a huge fan of my country. I'm an enormous fan of democracy. And some people, for shiny objects, right, will risk everything. That's the win at any cost energy, right? Do anything to win. You need to find out who was in the room. You need to find out where my book got copyrighted. And you need to find out if money changed hands. Now, did Snapped On Hairdo pay for 5 or 6 people to take me out? I don't know, right? You need to find out. I do not know. And of course, we have many people with, hair implants and this and that. So, you'll have to figure out who that is. But you really need to begin to look at the unexplained wealth in people's lives. And then you need to start asking very pointed questions. What was that money for? Right? You need to find out. Of course, in this, not everybody is who you think they are, right? And you're learning that the mirror magic had me painted as something I'm completely not. And you can call my references and verify that, right? None of the things that were said had anything to do with me whatsoever. It was a complete pack of lies. But it was all about keeping me hidden, buried, and quiet, right? Okay. Now, I do believe that upcoming there will be a number of tricksters who are going to jail, and some may take plea deals, right? This is possible because of what took place. And there's going to be a lot of turmoil over all of this. I have no doubt. Now, some of the people who end up, um, getting in trouble may be some of the same people who slandered me or have been job blocking me. There's been a real effort to keep me completely from working. And I've heard people want to support my website. Just know that there's people who I've been going through technological disaster. Okay. There are people who stole pictures off my phone, who are creating sites pretending to be me, giving astrological and tarot card readings to people with my picture, with ways to pay. My site has not been monetized at all. There's no way for you to pay me. This is the one and only site I have. If you see my picture elsewhere, don't use it. It's a complete fake. I still have witch copycats, one of whom I'm told may belong to the secret society, right? So people are still trying to destiny swap with me. Now, if you do want a reading, you can let me know, and I will give you my PO address and you can send me a check. Okay. But don't do anything online because I have not monetized my site. And some of the people that are, doing some of this are the same people that have been job blocking and slandering. Okay. And of course, this is all to, destabilize me and create fear and keep me isolated also, right? I literally have my phone is to the point where I think they spliced a message together, having taped my voice and sent some kind of weird message to my sister that incited a great deal of fear in her because she called and was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I bought a new phone, and within 15 seconds, they had infested the new phone. I have somebody who daily saves my astrology stuff online. And now to a PDF. And again, there's somebody who's pretending to be me, taking all my work, copycatting it, and saying, "This is my work." And it's not. Here's my work right here. Right here. And I'm going to read this to you later. I can't use the thumb drive because they disabled the thumb drives, right? So the person who's trying to replace me and do all this is gone to extremes. So somebody's PDFing my work. They are removed my ability to save this to a thumb drive, but here's what I wrote today, and I'm going to read it to you. And, again, it's to create isolation, stop me from working, and all of this. Okay, and now why? Because, again, we had a coup. We're all starting to realize that right now. Not only did we have a coup, but the energy of that coup is still there. So all I did was stop the coup, which of course became very dramatic. That's why we had January 6th, right? And again, my book, which got copyrighted by somebody who maybe was in the room, was trying to hide who all was involved. Okay. But AOC and Merrick Garland have a copy of the book, and you need to read it so that you know what's going on. And you need to do it muy rápido, por favor. Because there's a lot of trickery at foot, right? And for whatever reason, God bless, my life is in the middle of it, but I have nothing to do with it because I very much love my country. I very much believe in democracy. And of course, people are doing trickery of every kind, witch trickery, and try to steal every job that comes along so that they can keep me isolated so my story doesn't get out and starve me out. That's part of what's been going on. Okay. And they cost me my job in Boston by hacking the computer and lying about race stuff, I think, which I'm like the least racist person you could ever meet. So a lot of trickery at foot. Okay. And that's again because right now we have this win at any cost kind of energy because we're in that Pluto return and we're trying to rebirth our country into something else. Only we have different visions of what that is. And for some, it's a complete change, like you know, um, yeah, tyrant kind of energy. Okay, so all of this has, of course, created quite a battle in our country, which I hope we can get over because I want us to be at peace. I don't want this kind of energy chaotic. I want us to work together to birth a new country that works for everyone, right? But I'm very concerned about the information flow at the library. I've already noticed that I was blocked, for example, at one point from communicating with the White House. Just completely blocked, like I couldn't send anything from a public computer. I've noticed, all the other weird things, and I've sent so much information about the hacker who's been trying to copycat. And I don't know, are those reports, IC3 reports, going anywhere? I'll be honest with you, I sent IC3 forms in for years. And at a certain point, I would type in the name IC3 to go to the FBI, and that would immediately cause somebody to zoom in to my computer. Okay, so I have to wonder how much of what I have tried to provide the FBI has actually even gotten through. Do you understand how screwed that is? I don't have a computer at home, don't want one anymore. My phone is infested. They're stealing my mail. Okay, and I'm not sure what's getting through at the library, but I'm hoping that these YouTube videos are going through. Let me know if you're getting them, right? Please let me know. Because there's been a great deal of effort to keep me quiet and isolated. So what I'm learning about what happened to me does not get out. But you need to start figuring it out, and you need to figure it out fast, really fast. And you need to read my book, Betrayed, and you need to start figuring out who is in the living room and who took money to take me out. I have nothing to do with the whole Russia thing. Again, I signed for the Mueller probe 3 times, signed for out of office, and I used astrology to out the person who never should have been there to begin with. And, a lot of what's been going on is the mimicry. I'm going to be you. You're going to be me. We're going to do a destiny swap. Whatever they were, they said I was, right? So, I've been called a prostitute, a drug dealer. None of this stuff is true. Okay, so, and because the witches and secret society members are still afoot, don't go to a website with my picture. I only have the cat on mine. My site's not monetized. If you want to do a reading with me, you can send me a little note and I'll set up something with you. Okay. And of course, part of this with the witches that came in with everybody else who was in my house during the investigation of the Russia scandal, it was determined that the witches were going to make a blood sacrifice of me. So I was going to be offered up as a human sacrifice. Okay. And in the meantime, everything in the world has been done to try to isolate me, shut me up, and completely dominate my life. Do you see? To keep me quiet, squeeze the words out of me so that the truth of what has been going on does not get out. And I have been healing and overcoming from all of this energy. Okay. And a lot of this was all done out of self-interest because we have people that want to win at any cost, okay, including human life. So now this message is for democracy lovers in our country, both sides, right? We still have red and blue people who value the human rights and the decency that we have. This message is for you. It's for federal prosecutors. I would like you to get this message to AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and Senator Whitehouse too. You guys need to start getting dialed in on what's going on, and you need to do it quickly because the coup energy that I stopped, all that did was just go, and all the energy, well, you saw what happened, right, on January 6th. So that energy is still there, and there's still crazy things going on, and you need to figure it out. And we need to start to begin to gain a higher perspective of stuff. We need to pull ourselves together. We need to begin to work across lines, and we need to come up with solutions that work for everybody before we end up somewhere very dark as a country with cryptocurrency and people working both sides and whatever is going on. And we end up with something that we are like, wow, how did we do that? And of course, I keep coming up with, we can do territories, right? Where we work on preserving human rights and we search for win-win situations that work for everybody. And if we did sociologically aligned territories, we could manage to do that, right? I want peace and love and beauty and decency in my country. And despite what happened to me, I do love my country. There are things that I've been very wounded over, and that's still evident, but I'm working my way through it. Okay. So, anyhow, we need to work together to solve where we are. And we need to find a beautiful outcome that works for every person. But we still have people who want to win at any cost. And there's suitcases of money, and there's cryptocurrency, and there's people who are not who you think they are. So we need to find a way to rise above all of this, right? As a nation, we need to look at our shadow. We need to determine where we are, and we need to find a way to soar above this two-party system. Why? So we can quit the war at home, and so we can evolve, right? That's what's being called for if we do things peacefully. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and then I'm going to get into the eclipse portion of stuff. Why? Because I want to beat the person who's PDFing my stuff, and because it's my work, right? And I'm tired of people copycatting me. And so I'm going to end this one and start anew. And I want you to pay attention to this next video as well. Okay, very important, because the energies that are afoot in 2023 are dramatic, chaotic. A lot of things are going to come to light, and we're at this pivotal Pluto return era where we are going to rebirth a nation, whether we do it consciously or by coup. Okay, I love you all. Please understand everything that was said about me was an absolute lie. I couldn't possibly love my country more, and I'm working my way through those wounded places that are still raw. Okay? Please share this message. Please get busy. Find out who was in the room. Okay? All right. God bless. Take care.